sounded proud of himself. Time machine? He tapped a thick stack of multicolored paper against the open windowsill. This, my dear, is called a map. Back in the Dark Ages, this is how people traveled. I stifled the urge to roll my eyes. Despite my desire to drive away, maybe splashing the gas station attendant in the process, I needed this man's help. He unfolded the accordion-style paper map to a close-up of Napa County and spread it across the windowsill. "Where are you trying to go?" he asked. I had to consult my navigation app. I hadn't yet memorized the address. Lark Estates. It's supposed to be just off the Silverado Trail. The man peered at the details on his paper map. "Bachelorette party?" "Pardon?" "The vineyard," he noted. "Are you going to a bachelorette party or something? Seems to be all the rage these days." "Oh," I said, catching on. No bachelorette party. I just bought the place." I internally winced. God, I sounded so pretentious, with my electric car and my San Francisco parking decals, driving to the vineyard I had just bought. The man looked up from the map. I watched his eyes travel from my face to the back of my vehicle, which was packed high with luggage and whatever household items I didn't think I could survive without. "Fancy." I wanted to launch into the complicated history of how I, June St. Clair, a 40-year-old graphic designer from the Bay Area, had come into possession of a 20-acre micro-winery in Napa Valley. But it was a long story, and the man in the yellow jacket was still standing in the rain, which was progressively getting worse. I smiled mildly instead. "How about those directions?" The gas station hadn't been very far from the property. A few more turns off the county highway, and a handful of miles down narrow paved roads led to the property that had only recently come into my possession. The purchase was so recent, the for sale sign was still visible on CA 128. I put on my blinker, even though there were no other vehicles on the road, and turned onto the long driveway that served as the entrance to Lark Estates. I'd only been to the vineyard once. We'd been staying at a Napa bed and breakfast that had included a complimentary tour and tasting at the micro-winery. I'd never heard the term before that day, but it was exactly what you might expect. The property only produced about 10,000 cases of wine each year. The big producers in the area spilled more wine in a year than what this vineyard created, but that was exactly why Alex had wanted it. I leaned forward in the driver's seat to get a better view of my surroundings. A thick fog had settled across the road. Without the morning sun, the cloud cover had gotten trapped in the valley. Gravel churned beneath my tires. I drove slowly, yet the tread still spit up small rocks that pinged off the bottom of my car. My eyes swept back and forth across the lean landscape as I continued down the long, vacant driveway. The grounds looked much different in April than in the idyllic late summer when Alex and I had made our first and only visit. I remembered tall, blooming wildflowers and ample sunshine, but the sky was currently gray, and the native flowers hadn't yet bloomed. The valley was immersed in a thick fog, and instead of lush green vines crowded with tight bundles of grapes, the vineyard was barren of all life. A few hundred yards into the property was a large barn that doubled as a tasting room, as well as the production site for the wine itself, crusher destemming machines, a juice press, and giant steel fermentation tanks. Like many of the smaller wine producers in the area, access to the tasting room was by appointment only. The parking lot adjacent to the barn was empty. On a drizzly, overcast Tuesday in April, no one had apparently scheduled a visit to the winery. I didn't stop at the barn. I continued to slowly drive down the bumpy gravel road and beyond more acreage of hibernating grapevines. The dormant vines were neatly spaced from each other, like rows of solemn soldiers awaiting their orders. I'd never been this deep on the property before,